Pacific Rim Uprising is set 10 years after the events of the original film and follows Jake Pentecost, played by John Boyega, the son of the late legendary Jaeger pilot Stacker Pentecost, who was portrayed by Idris Elba back in 2013. And in this film, Jake finds himself leading a new group of young Jaeger pilots into battle against a new kaiju threat. I was a big fan of the original Pacific Rim, directed by Guillermo del Toro, and while I recognise it was more style over substance, it had a lot of style. It wasn't for everyone, bit of a geek fest, only appealing to those who are fans of these big dumb action blockbusters and giant monsters and robots. Except the first Pacific Rim wasn't dumb. Not really, when you think about it. This was a love letter by Del Toro to the giant robot and monster genres that originated in Japanese culture, that he obviously grew up on, geeked out on and had a passion for, and he wanted to make something that brought the two of them together in a great way. I like to use my brain and be inspired and feel genuine emotions when I watch a film, but I can also be a man of simple tastes. There will always be a part of me that enjoys watching giant robots twat giant monsters in the face. As a spectacle, I like that. The philosophy for watching these kinds of films, which is often used in their defence, is to switch your brain off at the cinema door and enjoy the spectacle for what it is. A quick piece of mindless popcorn entertainment. These huge action-packed blockbusters don't have to be mindless though, and while the first Pacific Rim didn't have any fantastically memorable performances outside of Idris Elba, it still told a story of war and the ways in which people fight for the things they love, whether it was on a personal level or them simply doing their duties to humanity. I was always going to give Pacific Rim Uprising a chance, even when the alarm bells sounded in my head when I realised that he wouldn't be directing but producing, whatever producing means nowadays. So Stephen DeKnight directed this one, who is mostly from a television background. This was his first feature film, and I think he did a good job. There's nothing wrong with the direction of this film. It just falters in the script. Most of the material the actors have to deal with ranges from okay to completely cringeworthy, but for the most part, what you came to see is good. The action is well directed, it flows fluidly, you can see what's happening. The huge fight sequences, what there are of them, are competent. They don't rely on any extreme rapid cut close-ups or shaky camera techniques. It doesn't give you a headache to watch. You can see what's going on. It still looks pretty cool. When it comes to the cast and the acting of this film, there's not really that much I can say. John Boyega is the strongest we have here in terms of acting. His character Jake is rebellious and somewhat self-obsessed, but once he gets reintroduced into the Jaeger program, he does have some good scenes of courage, and there is some comedy in there that he manages to work with because John Boyega has that natural charisma, which really does help in this case. And he makes for a good leader. He is good in the lead role. I did like the newly introduced character of Amara though, so props to newcomer Kaylee Spaney. At least I think she's a newcomer because I haven't really seen her in anything else yet. In the beginning of the movie, she's a bit of a tinkerer. You see that she's made her very own Jaeger out of parts that she's scavenged, and that was really cool to see. And by the end of the movie, she's going into battle alongside the rest of our heroes against the kaiju, so her character does have some kind of an arc. There are a few returning characters from the first Pacific Rim. I'm not going to go into them in too much depth because you'll know them when you see them if you cared about them that much in the first film. But their roles in this story range from extremely limited to flat out ridiculous. Charlie Day's character Newt returns in this film, the fast-talking, kaiju-obsessed scientist. He doesn't really have the dynamic that he had with the rest of the cast in the first film because for the most part he's kind of separated from them. He's had some kind of promotion and works for this new company now. It's all pretty complicated and not particularly interesting. And he just comes off in the first half of the film as a really unlikable dick. It's based on reality, I guess. I mean, promotions can turn people into dicks. I guess it all depends on the person. But then we reach a part of the film where he plays into the narrative in a big way, and there are some really questionable narrative choices and character directions taken with his character. And honestly, I don't even know what to say. And there's drones and kaiju robotic mergings, and it just lost me. There's still a bit of humour there with his character, but for the most part the film's trying to take it seriously, and there are moments that are supposed to be serious that are just unintentionally hilarious. And the plot is just completely nuts. It involves kaiju blood and volcanoes and chemical reactions, and you're just watching all this stuff happen. And it's just to set the arena really for the last 20 minutes where we have these giant kaiju versus Jaeger action that you're probably there to watch anyway. And like I said, if that is purely what you are there to see, the action is well directed and nice to look at. The kaiju look really cool, the Jaegers look really cool. In the end, this film is hurting without Del Toro's touch. It hasn't got his direction, it hasn't got his visual flair, it hasn't got his sense of style, it hasn't got his sense of scale. In the first film, the Jaegers and the kaiju felt really big. There was such an attention to detail on these things in the first movie, and even some of the environments they had to fight in really enhanced that. Like, they would fight underwater, they would fight in the air, they would fight at night when it was raining. This time around, it feels like Pacific Rim is trying to do all those things again, but in a much less interesting way. Whatever story was come up with and whatever vision the director had, it feels like it's been very influenced by the studio, and they've swept everything inside in favour of forming a new franchise. And now they really are probably just going to use it as a mindless toy selling platform, like what was done with Transformers. So for a bit of attractive mayhem, the film is entertaining enough. If you are going just to see giant robots fight giant monsters, you're probably going to enjoy it. But in my opinion, even those aspects of this film pale in comparison to the original. I am going to give Pacific Rim Uprising a C-. So that's all from me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this review. Feel free to talk anything and everything about Pacific Rim Uprising in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, take it easy, and I will see you in the next one.